It's one of those times where you just say, screw it, and you hop on, and this is one of those times. I'm Bryce Gelman. What's up, everyone? Previewing Giants-Patriots Monday Night Football, the third primetime game the Giants have been in this season, one that I'm very much looking forward to for a multitude of reasons. Even though you might think, oh, the Giants season is over. Yeah, of course it is. 2-10. What the hell is there to play for? What is there to play for? Some people out there want the Giants to lose because they want them to have a better position in the draft. This is the first time in a very long time that I don't subscribe to that belief. I feel very out of place, and it doesn't feel right to me. It's not a natural feeling, but here I am, nonetheless. And that's why I'm going live. If I didn't care about this game, if it didn't mean anything to me, I wouldn't be on here talking to you guys, previewing this game. This team is 2-10. They're 2-10. But they just fired their defensive coordinator. I expect them to see a bump when you look at the Patriots' offensive line. It's in shambles. They're missing their entire left side of the line. The Giants' defensive line actually has something to play for with their terrorist defensive coordinator now fired and unemployed. So this is setting up to be a close game. I think people are very much underrating the Giants going into this game in about 35 minutes. It makes sense to me. A lot of people don't follow the team. A lot of people look at storylines. They look at what has happened with Abdul Carter, him falling asleep. They look at what Dexter Lawrence has said, how dejected he's looked. They see that Kayvon Thibodeau is going to be out for this game. But that's the extent to which they understand the Giants. And if you've watched the Giants as much as I've watched the Giants, and I'm sure everyone out there watching this has watched the Giants, and you understand this is not a bad football team. If their defense didn't historically collapse in 5 games in which they had a double-digit lead in the fourth quarter, all road games, the Giants would be 7-5 right now. They'd be near the top of the NFC East after what's happened with the Eagles. You think that they have a chance to win the division. Things go the wrong way for a variety of reasons. One of them, and the biggest reason being, the defensive coordinator is incompetent, was incompetent. He's gone now. More on that later. But there's a reasonable argument to be made the Giants should be 7-5. And they got screwed in that Eagles game. The tush-push, Cam Scadaboo's injury, a bunch of things happened in that game. The phantom block in the back. There were a bunch of things that happened throughout this season. I think realistically, 7-5. You can make the argument for 8-4. But again, people are underestimating the Giants going into this game. And it makes sense. It does. The Giants' defensive line is something to prove. I don't know if you saw the video of Dexter Lawrence when he was asked about Shane Bowen's firing. One of the funniest things I've seen all year. And people are trying to misconstrue his words and make them out to be what they weren't. He didn't say anything. But watch that video. Go back and watch that video. Dexter Lawrence, the heart and soul of that Giants team, even though he sucked the entire year, and what does he have to play for? He was asked about it. He was asked about Shane Bowen getting fired, and he kept saying, I don't know, over and over again with the exact same expression on his face as I do right now. He's like, I don't know. I don't know. He looked happier than I looked when the Knicks made the Eastern Conference Finals. If you know, you know. They have something to play for in this game. You could tell that they did not want to play hard for Shane Bowen. And that's not to say that Charlie Bullen, who was the outside linebackers coach, who now slots into the defensive coordinator role, doesn't doesn't mean that he's going to magically turn things around. He was the defensive coordinator through 5 practices. 5 practices, I believe. Nothing's going to change scheme-wise. Nothing changes personnel-wise. But something might change effort-wise. And that's all you can ask for from a team that has consistently let the fans down, particularly on the defense. And of course, you look at a guy like Deonte Banks. All right. You look at Deonte Banks. and if you see that there, I have a Deonte Banks jersey hanging up. It hangs up until the Giants win a game. And I really think that there's a chance that this game is what will end it. I really do. But when you get rid of guys like that from the secondary, when the Giants aren't forced to play a Deonte Banks, a Corey Black steps up. Dane Belton's pretty solid. You get better performances. That's the personnel side of things. What? All right. I'm gonna ban that use. That's pretty crazy. I'm not even gonna, you probably see that. That's insane. That's crazy. That's a first. How do you know that? How do you know that? If you saw that, you didn't see it. But I mean, I look at this game and I look at a team like the Patriots. They're 10-2. They're a good team, right? Well, you look at their schedule and tell me that isn't the easiest schedule that you have ever seen. Drake May is an MVP candidate for good reason. I am still extremely disappointed the Giants lost out on him because of Tommy DeVito. And he had the balls to say that he hopes that the Patriots, who he doesn't play for, of course, he's the backup, he hopes they destroy the Giants. I hope we blow them out. We? Are you going to be playing in the game? Or it's like me saying we with the Giants. I have just as good of a chance to play for the Giants in this game tonight that Tommy DeVito does. All right? He wants to blow out the Giants. Just shut your mouth. Yeah, maybe I tweeted this earlier this week, and maybe we should take back all the money that he made from those obscure New Jersey businesses. And he went to Bubba Q's Burritos in my hometown. Maybe we should pull that money away from him. Show some respect. Because the only reason he's relevant is because of that Linsanity run he went on with the Giants. I digress. But when we saw what happened in 2023 when the Giants won those 3 meaningless games in a row. And they lost out on Drake May. And then you saw in offseason Hard Knocks that the Giants were desperately trying to trade up for Drake May. They understood his talent. Now the entire NFL understands his talent. And by me calling out their record and saying that maybe they shouldn't be 10-2, and this isn't, I think it's a Mickey Mouse team. Like, they can win a playoff game or two. Drake May is still an MVP candidate. You can't take that away from him. But what you can objectively say is that the Patriots have had an extremely easy schedule. They're 10-2. The Giants are 2-10. And yet I look at both of these teams on paper. It might be the closest matchup of two teams so far apart in record. And the line doesn't represent that. It doesn't. Because of the record. And because people just don't know about this Giants team. And why would you? Why would you pay attention to the Giants? People were paying attention to them early on in the season. They, of course, had that massive win, the biggest win they've had in years against the Eagles on Thursday Night Football. Everyone was in and still is into Cam Scatterboo, and everyone loves Jackson Dart. They may respect Jackson Dart, but they look at the defense. They look at this putrid Giants defense, and they correctly call out how bad it's been. No one's denying how bad they've been. But they just fired the defensive coordinator, who might be the worst defensive coordinator in NFL history. So that guy's gone. Shane Bowen's gone. Charlie Bullen comes in. And yes, I'm going to keep hammering this point home. There's no guarantee that things are going to change. There's no guarantee that Charlie Bullen, in the 5 days he had of practice with his defense, changed anything up. You're not going to switch up a scheme 13 weeks into the season. Anyone expecting a complete difference in this defense should probably skew their expectations. Take a step back and observe this objectively. Don't get too emotional, because I think people are on both ends of the spectrum. On one, they're so dejected about this Giants season. They hate to watch them continue to lose. And on the other hand, there are a lot of people out there who despise Shane Bowen, who understand how bad of a defensive coordinator he was, and thus think that the Giants have a chance in this game because everyone seemed checked out on the Giants when it comes to Shane Bowen. And again, I love the video that I saw earlier this week of Dexter Lawrence when he was asked about Shane Bowen. That should tell you all you need to know. He's the heart and soul of the Giants defense, and he looked as ecstatic as I've ever seen Dexter Lawrence look when he was asked about Shane Bowen. He said nothing. He said, I don't know. But you look at his face. We know Dex. What Dexter Lawrence did, and let's separate him from the rest of the defense, because the rest of the defense on paper looked to be one of the best in the NFL going into the season. A lot of takes, a lot of national talking heads were saying Well, the Giants offense is going to hold back the defense. The defense is going to be one of the best in the league. The Giants will have an okay record. They have one of the hardest schedules, if not the hardest in the NFL, but they won't score enough points to have a respectable record. Opponents aside, normal 17-game season. It's been the opposite. The Giants went off in that game against the Cowboys. Russell Wilson played horrendously against the Chiefs. And then Jackson Dart slots into the starting quarterback role, and everything changes. The offense changes for the better. And yet, the Giants are still 2-10. They're still 2-10. So what can we draw all of this back to? It's either scheme, because Shane Bowen's an idiot, or two, it's because of effort, because no one likes Shane Bowen. So either way, it's Shane Bowen's fault. No matter what you think about his scheme, no matter what you think about him as a person, either way, it's drawn back to him. And you shed that. You shed the cancer that has been Shane Bowen. That is why I have hope in the Giants for this game. The line is currently Giants +7. I have not placed a lot of bets this year. I have placed that bet. I don't bet on my teams, ever. And if you watch One Giant Step with Sean Morash and myself, you understand why. You understand why. Because I suck. I am currently 3-9 on my picks for the Giants this year. We pick every game at the end of each episode. Check it out wherever you get your podcast, One Giant Step. We pick the games every single week. I'm 3-9. And yet I feel extremely confident about this game. And I just laid out all the reasons. The biggest reason being, I believe the Patriots are going into this game. We're 10-2. We're at the top of the AFC. We're the first team to 10 wins. Look at this Giants team, 2-10. Just fired their head coach and defensive coordinator. They're in shambles. They're a mess. You saw what happened 2 weeks ago against the Lions, against last week, where the Lions went in and they didn't take the Giants seriously. It took a ferocious fourth quarter comeback against Mr. Blown fourth quarter leads himself, Shane Bowen, in order for them to win that game. You look at the offense, the Lions' offensive line, specifically the interior. Darius Alexander had 2 sacks against the Lions. And now look at this Patriots offensive line. If you think the Lions offensive line was bad, look at this Patriots offensive line. They're missing their entire left side of their offensive line. Will Campbell, the standout rookie, drafted last year, out at left tackle. And then Jarrett Wilson, who's also a young guy, he's also a rookie, out at left guard. Speaking of rookie, this Patriots team has a very bright future. Some teams just get lucky. You look at the Patriots, you look at the Spurs. Some organizations just have the luck that sustains itself over a period of time. The Patriots are set up to be really good for a very long time. Drake May on a rookie contract, Mike Vrabel, one of the best head coaches in the NFL. But this is a game in which I think they are going to get exposed. I think the Giants are going to go into Foxborough, and I think they're going to prove a lot of people wrong on prime time, on national TV. What do they have to lose? What do the Giants have to lose? Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. And, as much as I believe that there isn't a lot of rhyme or reason behind personnel decisions with the Giants, more so Joe Shane and obviously less with Brian Daboll. I think that the decision to make Charlie Bullen the defensive coordinator was based in some reality. There was some reasoning behind that. And for me, from the outside looking in, not being in East Rutherford every day and watching these practices and watching the interactions with each coach's players on the defensive side, you look at the production that the Giants have gotten out of their edge rushers, and that is the strongest part of their defense, strongest part of their team. But I'm not just talking about like the normal production that we expect from Brian Burns and and Kayvon Thibodeau and Abdul Carter, which has, of course, been underwhelming. But Brian Burns is having a career year. #1 in Pro Bowl voting for edge rushers. He's going to be first or second team All-Pro. You look at Kayvon Thibodeau. There were a lot of questions going into the season about whether or not the Giants should extend him, whether they should trade him, or do whatever. And Kayvon Thibodeau has had an extremely solid season. The best season of his young career. Of course, he's out, and this is not going to help him a lot, but before his injury, Kayvon Thibodeau took a massive step up. He really did. And yeah, it could be him busting his ass in the offseason, him putting on a few pounds, becoming more elusive. But if you're looking for a reason, if you're looking for a specific coach to give credit to, it's Charlie Bullen. And I know that there were a couple of other guys in the Giants defensive staff that have had experience being defensive coordinator. That's why I believe what I believe here, that there was a rhyme and reason as to why they promoted Charlie Bullen. And I'm happy. I really am. I know there are a lot of people out there, and I touched on this earlier. I've had this conversation with a bunch of my friends about whether you should be rooting or should not be rooting for the Giants in this game. I'm excited because I think the Giants have a chance. And I'm not going to sit here and root for the Patriots. I won't do that. And I never did that last year. The way I looked at it is like I'm kind of indifferent on the ending of the game, but I'm not going to sit there and root for the teams the Giants are playing just because I want them to have a better pick. Listen, when they lost, when they beat the Colts in that game, I was pissed. Pissed. And I think for good reason, even though it worked out in the end. Even though I think Cam Ward's going to be very solid in the league. But you catch my drift. The Giants have a quarterback. They have a quarterback. No matter where they end up, if they end up in the top 5, there are so many teams looking for a quarterback right now that they will be able to collect draft assets, move back in the draft, and then have picks next year. You can add 2 seconds. You can have a late first next year. You'll be in a great spot with a new, potentially competent head coach coming in. It's an extremely desirable job for said future potential head coach. You've got the quarterback. You've got the talent surrounding. You got the defensive line. You've got everything that you need to build on to have a successful football team. When you talk about the most important areas, the multiple foundations of a football team, quarterback's #1. No one's against that. No one's denying that. The 2 other biggest things, in my opinion, are the offensive and defensive lines. Especially when you look at this organization, you look at the history of this organization. The Giants have figured it out when it comes to the offensive line. That's why the offenses look so potent. That's why they were comfortable sending Jackson Dart out there against a really solid Chargers defense. Because this offensive line under Carmen Brasillo, who, thank God for that guy, has looked competent. More competent than they've looked maybe in my life, in my adult life, which doesn't span very far. It's like 2018, 2019. It's not saying much. The Giants have the offensive line built. Yeah, there are a lot of question marks in the offseason, whether Illuminor gets re-signed, what happens at right guard with Greg Van Roten. I think it ends up being fine, but you see JMS, John Michael Schmitz, he looks really good for the last few weeks. He's caught a lot of flack from me, from plenty of other Giants fans out there, but you got to give credit where credit is due. JMS has been very solid. So not only do you have a really solid left side of your offensive line, they bring back Jermaine Illuminor. You got a solid right tackle as well. JMS, man. I mean, listen. He's looked pretty good. Maybe you get some cheap extension here this offseason, like the Knicks did with Deuce McBride. I mean, you get some good value for a guy that you've seen it get better and better throughout the season. Thank God for Carmen Brasillo. So you got the offensive line built. That's been the biggest question mark for the Giants, their biggest Achilles heel since they made the playoffs in 2016. And you look at defensive line. And again, it doesn't take a rocket scientist, didn't take a rocket scientist to see it at the time. The Giants' best position group going into the season, I think even still now, is their defensive line. So quarterback, offensive line, and defensive line, the three most important things for any football team. And in my opinion, the three strongest areas for the Giants. That's why they could beat any team. If those three position groups show up, doesn't matter what else happens, you've got a chance to win every single game. Of course, if you got the worst player in NFL history in your secondary and Deonte Banks, or if your coordinator is Shane Bowen, that of course throws a wrench in things. But on a sheer talent level, it is very difficult to be blown out in games if you're the New York Giants. Hasn't happened much this season because their offensive line has been so good, because of the quarterback play, and because of the pressures, created by the defense. I know the sack numbers haven't really translated well. Abdul Carter still doesn't have a sack on his own. Dexter Lawrence, whatever happened there, I do think he's going to have a good night tonight. Brian Burns has been the one guy. Been the second best edge rusher in the NFL this season, next to Myles Garrett, who was obviously in a league of his own, but for the majority of the season, up until the last 2 or 3 weeks, Brian Burns is right up there with Myles Garrett. There are so many teams in the NFL clamoring for a guy like Brian Burns. And you have him. And you have him on an amazing contract. You look at the contract Aiden Hutchinson just got, and you compare the talent between the two guys. If Brian Burns is up for an extension after this season, he's getting $10 million more than Aiden Hutchinson just got from the Lions. That's how good Brian Burns has been. That is why I think the Giants have a chance in this game. That's why I think the Giants have a chance in every single game they have played this season. And you look at the scores after the third quarter. If they didn't play the fourth quarter, the Giants would be 7-5 or 8-4, whatever the hell the number is. They'd be a lot better than where they are right now. So Shane Bowen's gone. Good riddance. And this is the first chance that we get to see the Giants without Shane Bowen. If he was really that bad, the things should look a little bit better. Again, things aren't going to change scheme-wise. Personnel's still the same. But the guy who is the play caller on the defensive end is unemployed. He's probably sipping a margarita in Florida. Hopefully he doesn't show face anywhere near Boca or that area. There are a lot of Giants fans down there. I wonder why. Everyone moved down from New York City. Shane Bowen's gone. He is. Charlie Bullen comes in. And I just really feel confident about this game. And I don't bet a lot on my teams. I don't feel confident in my teams a lot of the time. I just, for whatever reason, this game in this spot in prime time, the Patriots are going to get complacent. They're going to sit there. They're going to feel their record. They're not just going to see it. They're going to feel, all right, we are 10-2. We got the best record in the NFL. We were the first team to 10 games. I feel, and I'm sensing that this is just how the Patriots are going to react. They're going to feel, we're going to kill these guys. These guys are 2-10. They're bums. Look at their receiving core. Who the hell are the running backs? Devin Singletary is their RB2? Come on. How's their secondary? Mike Vrabel's a really solid head coach. And I'm sure he's doing everything he can to tell his team, we can't take these guys lightly. They're a lot better than what their record says. Even Stephon Diggs, even though I felt like that. Stephon Diggs said earlier this week, the Giants have one of the best defenses in the league. Which, come on, you're buttering them up. You're preparing yourself for disaster, to look better in the face of disaster if the Giants actually do play well defensively. But I think it's an idiotic take to say. But I'm sure that Mike Vrabel's trying to get this team to keep its head up, to keep trudging forward, to keep this amazing season, keep the momentum rolling. But the Giants just surprised the hell out of the Detroit Lions, who, in my opinion, have a better head coach than the Patriots do. And it's comparing apples to oranges, but there is some correlation there in the fact that the Lions actually have more to play for. They're in this tight-ass race in the NFC. They needed that win a lot more than the Patriots need to win tonight. They essentially have their division locked up. The Bills are not as good as the Bills have been in previous years, And they are looking the best they've looked since the Tom Brady era. So why do I say all this? I say all of this because I have this feeling. I have this premonition. I have this premonition. And so does J3 Gaming. I got a lot of troll comments. One that was pretty fucking funny. I mean, not funny, anti-Semitic. Giants finna win. You finna get introduced to Jackson Dart. Yeah, I mean, 100%. 100%. But here's the thing about, which is crazy, and I appreciate the comment there. With Jackson Dart, he's getting respect around the league. Excuse me. Anytime you've seen disrespect amongst big Twitter accounts, you see all the other fan bases rushing in there to defend Jackson Dart. That's why I think this game is very exciting. Even though the Giants are 2-10, you're going to have good ratings for this game. Yeah, it's a New York team, but they're 2-10. They're 2-10 versus a 10-2 team. One team doesn't have much to play for because they're comfortably in the first seed. And the other team has nothing to play for because they're 2-10. So you might ask, why the hell should anyone watch this game? It's because of the quarterback battle. It's because these two teams have maybe the two most intriguing young quarterbacks in the NFL. Two guys that are very easy to root for. That's why I think this game is going to be fun. I think that's why this game is going to have a great viewership. It's a very intriguing matchup between the two quarterbacks and not the two teams. I'm excited. Again, I don't bet much on my own teams, and for good reason. I probably lose a lot of money. I don't bet a lot at all. I'm feeling the Giants, guys. I'm feeling the Giants. This can be very good. This can be a very uplifting win. and we're just looking for nuggets of greatness, of the future. We're looking for anything that we can hold on to be able to say, hey, the Giants won this game down the stretch of the season without Shane Bowen. Now, what does that signal for years to come? And of course, there's uncertainty surrounding the team, the head coach, maybe even the GM. But a win tonight against the 10-2 team, and here's you saw the Broncos advance to, I think, 10-3, whatever it was. I think they got their 10th win. It might be 10-2 now. But you saw a team that's at the top, another team now at the top of the AFC. The Giants should have beat. Team that they allowed 33 points in the fourth quarter to. The Giants win this game, then you could look to the fact that the Giants should have had 2 wins against, two of the top teams in the AFC. And they beat the Eagles. They beat the Chargers. Should have won that game against the Broncos. Should have won the Lions game. Saints aren't a good team. Should have won that game. Should have won the Cowboys game. Cowboys look good. They weren't as good early in the year. They look good now. I'm saying all of this just to say this Giants team is not as bad as people are making them out to be. And that is what I've been trying to get out these last 30 minutes before this game starts. And I'm going to end this in a sec. But my final prediction, I got the Giants winning 29-23. I don't think it's going to be a close game. Not a close game. I mean, last second field goal. I think that the Giants are going to be near the lead or in the lead throughout this game. It's not going to be a last second comeback thing. The Giants are going to be right there with the Patriots. Their run defense, which has been the worst in the NFL. It's been the worst in NFL history, in recent NFL history. They're allowing 5.6 yards per rush, the most in the modern era, the modern football era. Their defensive line is going to look good against the run. I think the Giants get 5 sacks in this game. I really do. I think Abdul Carter gets his first sack. I'm putting my money where my mouth is on that one. I am on that too. Drake May is going to be running for his life in this game. He's been sacked 6 or more times, or 4 more times. I forgot exactly what the stat is. Sacked 4 more times in 6 games this year. Still has the best completion percentage in the NFL. He's amazing, man. I'm excited in this game. For this game, I think Drake May is, again, very talented. Jackson Dart, very talented. And let's hope that Jackson Dart doesn't get himself concussed again and gives himself early onset CTE. All right, that's going to do it, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. I'm looking forward to this game. I'm going to talk about it tomorrow morning with Sean Morash on One Giant Step. Check that out wherever you get your podcast. But thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I'll talk to you all very soon. Go Giants.